Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Minority Reportz podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh. You guys, what is happening? We are approaching the end of this week. I cannot wait for it to be over already. This week has been insane. I do about 3 to 5 Zoom calls a day for work, and I want to blow my brains out. Yay. And now we have a curfew coming through. I don't know if you guys heard, but Governor Mr. Hypocrite Newsom came out today and said that there's going to be a curfew for a month starting this Saturday from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. because really that's when the shenanigans really go down. So 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., you guys, a curfew in California. Hi, Yolanda. Hi, James. Nice to see you guys. Today I have a very special guest with me. I've been on her podcast. She was very sweet to invite me on her podcast, which is called, I could have swore I know the name of this podcast, but I want her to comment. But I think she's a very talented actress. She's a very talented writer. And she's a writer on Mr. Iglesias, which is one of the top rated shows on Netflix about, of course, Mr. Gabriel Iglesias, a.k.a. Fluffy. And we're going to talk to her about her career. So this is my very talented friend, Natasha Chandel. How are you?
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm glad that being on Kinda Dating was memorable.
I swear to God, you know what I was going to say? Almost dating. And I was like, no, it's not almost. It's kind of dating. It's kind of dating.
At least you say kinda. I get annoyed when people are like, kind of dating. I'm like, the name is right in front of you. It's like right there.
It's kinda. It's kinda. It's not kind of. It's kinda.
Because kind of is so...
It's too kind of is very it's like somebody saying you all instead of y'all.
Yeah. Let's not be so proper and lame and
weird.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Kind of dating.
Did you hear about the curfew, Natasha?
I did. I am obsessed with Twitter and I'm on it every second of my day, which I shouldn't be because I don't know how I get anything done. Yeah, I think it's look, man, I don't do shit. I don't go anywhere anyways, so I don't care. It really doesn't affect my life, but I'm more annoyed because I'm kind of like, okay, boo-boo, are you gonna stop all these actual parties that are happening in the hills and these mansion parties all over? Because that's how COVID is spreading.
Yeah.
Because I read an article that was in LA Times going, LA officials are perplexed with how COVID is spreading across LA. I'm like, just look at Instagram stories. You don't need experts. Just look at Instagram stories. It's literally all there.
What do you think they should do? Do you think they should go to these parties, ticket people, take them to jail? What should they be doing?
I mean, at least just shut it down as it's happening. I got invited to Diwali bash in the Hidden Hills. Oh my God. I was like, you should know your demo. I'm like, do you ever see me? All I post about is fucking mask up and stop it. But I don't know. I mean, at this point, it's going to be very difficult to curb, but I think that they should be going in there and at least stopping it. They should what the fuck is the point of having police or doing anything or governance if you're not going to go in and fucking govern? Make them stop.
But it's like Dr. Fauci came out, I think it was yesterday or today, and he made a really great point. And his point was, we need to have a federal mandate where there is a mandate in place across states. So not every state is doing its own thing. Not North Dakota is doing one thing, South Dakota is doing one thing, California is doing one thing, and it's really problematic. It needs to be kind of like a federal mandate where it's across the country, where it's just social distancing, non-essential businesses, whatever it needs to be. It needs to be on a unison level, not South Dakota's gonna be fucking partying until 2 a.m. and North Dakota's yo, shut that shit down. You motherfuckers are spreading it everywhere.
Well, also, all of us could mask up, and then there's always Florida. And Florida ruins everything for everybody because one fucking loser Floridian will get on a plane and then be like, you know what? I don't want to wear a mask. I'm going to get on a plane and go to California.
I have a breathing problem. Yeah. It's like if you have a breathing problem with a mask, you're really not going to like the ventilator when it's fucking lungs.
Totally. I mean, I just think all of these things are, you and I come from backgrounds and countries that are a lot tougher. Like I'm always like, when people complain about like freedom and liberty, I'm like, you know what? You don't know what it means to have your freedom and liberty taken away.
It's so good here, Natasha.
But the other thing to me is like, you have to. It boggles my mind that the Senate or the Congress, like, even those guys refuse to wear a mask and have it mandated that they have to wear a mask on the floor. Because to me, I'm like, you are mandated to wear a shirt. Mm-hmm. You are mandated to wear a seatbelt. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, how is any of that different? What? And like people who are like, my last rant about fucking masks is like people who say, oh, masks don't protect anything. I'm like, that's like saying a fucking shirt doesn't protect you. You know what I mean? But if you wear a couple layers of a shirt, it's still fucking like you feel like cool, right?
That's right.
So clearly it's blocking something.
But you know, those are the same people who don't follow science, right? I mean, you go onto the CDC website, and those are the same people, Trump supporters, the same people who come out and be like, well, masks don't work. It's like, have you been to the CDC website? Oh, I don't trust that. That's fake news. That's fake media. I don't trust that. So what do you trust? Your grandpa, your grandma? Like, who are you listening to? Like, what?
I mean, I feel like when you call it the original sin, I guess in Adam and Eve, they call it the original sin. To me, the original sin was two things. That they said right in the beginning that COVID doesn't affect young people as much. Grave sin that they made in the beginning, because of course every child is out rampant, and you can't change that narrative once you first had everybody's attention right in the beginning. That's when you had to give the correct information. Yes. And the second sin was they said masks wouldn't help, but they said it because there was not enough PPE. So they were trying to stop people from running and buying all of the N95s. Yes. But the original sin was they should have explained that to people. Sure. Instead of saying masks don't work, because that's all they got. That's the only headline that's still being said today. CDC and Fauci said masks don't work. And you're like, you fucking idiots. And I was even telling people, like, if you ask my friends, I was telling people like COVID was going to come to America in February. And I was like, the second that shit gets on a plane, you can't stop it. That's right. It. It gets on a plane, and that's exactly what happened. And then the second thing was even wear a mask when you were going to the grocery stores. And my friends were like, okay, Tash, you're being like anal. I was like, just wear it outside. I'm telling you, because I guarantee you this shit is airborne and they're not telling us.
That's right. And turns out it's exactly what it is. So now I read today, why are we constantly cleaning down surfaces when it's airborne? So why are we still wiping down surfaces when it doesn't live on surfaces when it's just airborne? So I'm just like, okay, we have information at this point.
Yeah. I don't think it's just airborne because that's like where, I try to explain to you, like, anything that comes out of your mouth, even spit, it's a molecule, and that molecule will eventually stick on something. So while it's running around in the air, it also sticks to a surface. Yep. Now, some surfaces it lasts on and some it doesn't. I'm going to say I'm still the person who kind of wipes down my groceries before I put it in the fridge. But I also like wash my hands like 18 times a day in my own house.
Me too.
Just because I'm like, ooh, I got an Amazon delivery. Don't know where you went. Cut. Wash my fucking scissors, wash my hands. And I'm like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. So I, right before we started the stream, I got a text saying that Jeff Bezos just dumped $3 billion worth of Amazon shares. So you kind of have to kind of stop and be like, why would Jeff Bezos dump $3 billion worth of stocks of his own company like quickly?
I mean, he's been doing that. He does that on and off every so often. I gotta say my weakness is I don't understand shit about the stock market, like as in terms of why they would do that. But why do you think they would do that?
I think he has some insider information that we don't. Why the fuck?
Yeah.
So by the way, the Amazon stock, first of all, does incredibly well.
Yeah.
I invest in the stock market, so I know a little bit. It does very well, and it's a very expensive stock to buy among Google and the other guys. So the fact that he just came out and dumped it is a little alarming to me, because it tells me either he has some insider information about maybe there's going to be some kind of a mandate or a curfew coming where delivery packages are going to be monitored. Maybe they're finding out that delivery packages are carrying the virus, and maybe that's going to get slowed down. We don't know. But now that we're at the verge of the holiday season and packages are going to increase and business is going to increase, I don't know. But it is a little alarming to me.
Maybe he's moving it into the Moderna stock.
Maybe moving in the Moderna stock, but you have to think about it. I mean, Amazon's going to it's going to make a fucking killing during the holiday season. Why the fuck would you dump your stocks, $3 billion worth of stocks, right before the holiday season kicks in?
I tell you, $3 billion for fucking Jeff Bezos is like $1,000 for us. Because the guy made $93 billion or something so far since the pandemic. It was like,
he's gonna be the first,
like 2 months ago.
Yeah, he's going to be the first
trillionaire.
Yeah, he's going to be the first trillionaire. Maybe he can buy his girlfriend a new face with that. But have you seen her? Wow. Okay. Wow. Jesus. Get a better fucking plastic surgeon. I mean, you have all this money. What the fuck? Sorry. She's just like her face is tighter than my sphincter. And it's fascinating because she's a piece of work, that one too. She's a piece of work. She's the one who stepped in and broke up their marriage, her and Mackenzie. So I don't really have a lot of empathy for women like that. But that being said, I actually was, we'll step away from COVID, and I'm sure a lot of people are just kind of fucking sick and tired of hearing it. But I was actually looking at your reel on IMDb, and it's super adorable because first of all, you're Canadian. You're born and raised in Toronto?
No, so I'm born in Dubai, but raised in Toronto.
Born in Dubai. Wow. So how old were you when you moved to?
I was born in Dubai. I'm at 6, I moved to Bombay, and then at 7, I moved to Toronto.
Okay.
Then I was there till after college.
Why were you guys traveling so much?
They had the Gulf War was happening in the Middle East at the time, and so they thought that it might go into UAE, and so my parents left thinking that it was going to come there. So then we ended up going to Bombay, and then my mom got a job in Canada.
Oh wow, your mom got a job in Canada, not even your dad.
No, my mom did, and our house was like always like the reverse of every regular person's home, but my mom got it, and then after college I left myself, and then I came to New York and then LA.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And were you was that a thing for you? Did you know very kind of early on that you were going to be an artist and all this stuff, or was that just kind of later as you went along you were like, you know what I really want to do? I want to perform.
No, this is it. Like literally it. Like since my mom always tells this funny story of seeing me performing in front of a mirror, and I would just like keep making faces, and I do even now. Like I make a lot of I'm a very animated person. I've had to learn to control it, but I would make faces, then I would start crying. So she walked in once and I was crying, and then I stopped and I looked at her and I just stopped crying, and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, oh yeah, I just want to see what my face looks like. And so she always says, like, I was always sort of doing that and then playing dress up and characters in the house. And then when I was 7 years old, I was doing an impression of Gosselin from Darkwing Duck. A very dramatic scene where Gosselin like is like joking, and then she like falls in like a very dramatic fashion. So I did that in front of my dad and a family friend. And my dad was like, you'd make a great actor. And I was like, oh, is that what this is called? Cool. And then I started in regional theater there. I started at improv when I was 7. And then
improv when you were 7 years old?
Yeah, that's when I started
in Canada.
In Canada, yeah.
Wow.
Like local, like our regional theater stuff, and then I would perform regional theater and or local theater, and then in high school I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Juilliard and be an actor. And like my parents the whole time were supporting me. They're like, yeah. And then when it actually came down to time, they're like, oh, you're serious? Like, sit back down. Not what you're gonna do. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? And so
what did they want you to be? A doctor? Engineer? What did they want you to be?
Well, of course, the doctor, classic thing. So then through high school, I ended up doing like all the arts and all the sciences. And so then when it came time to university, because I wasn't allowed to go to theater school, I ended up in Canada, you get 4 choices for like your university applications.
Okay.
So I had 3 that were for science programs and 1 that was for radio and television arts. I was like, if I can't act or like study acting, I'm going to study everything else, like behind the scenes. And so then, of course, I got all early acceptance and scholarships into the science programs.
Yes, we did.
But then luckily on my birthday, I got into the university I wanted to get into for radio and television. And then but yeah, I've always just been doing this. And so I was producing since I was pretty young and writing since I was pretty young, but acting was first. And then I got into dancing, and I used to sing since I was a baby. So kind of.
Speaking of dancing, and I want to like take a little bit of like a side road to this. So did you watch Indian Matchmaking at all?
Yeah, of course I did. Okay, and I got like 8, I mean, from doing Kind of Dating, any remote dating show, people love to text me about.
Sure. So Indian Matchmaking, what's the girl's name? Is it Nadia?
Nadia, the sweet girl.
The sweet girl. The sweet one, which everybody thinks she's sweet. She's so she was like dancing. She's of Guyanese descent. Is she Guyanese?
Yes, Guyanese, yeah.
She's Guyanese. Which I think, Natasha, you and I would agree with. And she made that point that Guyanese and Trinidadians, although they have Indian blood at them and are of Indian descent or South Asian descent, they're kind of looked at as outsiders by South Asians. They're just like, yeah, you're one of us, but not really, not so fast. You got like other blood mixed in you, so you're not really all of us. You're kind of us, kind of.
100%. Yeah. I mean, in Canada, we have a big Caribbean community, so there's a lot of people from all over, Jamaica especially, and Trinidad and Guyana. So I have a lot of friends growing up who just like, they know way more about Bollywood and Indian culture than most Indians do. But poor guys, like nobody considers them Indian enough.
It's terrible. It's really terrible. And I was watching Nadia on Indian Matchmaking, and she's a dancer. She likes to do the Indian, is it Kathak? That's the classical Indian dancing, right?
Which one she does? Bharatnatyam and Kathak are the
Bharatnatyam, Kathak. Yeah. And I was watching that, and I was just like, you're trying so hard.
It's sweet when somebody tries, though, because on one end, I'm like, I'd love for fucking Indians to try harder.
Right? Like, and I was like, dude, I respect that. I got mad respect for that, Natasha. What did you drop?
Charging this as we talk.
Oh, I was like, I got mad respect for that. Yeah, I mean, for me, and we're just gonna gossip a little bit about that because we totally have to, Natasha. Aparna is. Aparna is
my type of Indian, by the way. I'm half Sindhi. She's Sindhi.
Oh, she's Sindhi? Okay. She's my mom's Sindhi too. And, yeah, and well, she speaks Sindhi at least. And my when I saw Aparna, I was like, wow, if 2020 was a person, it would be Aparna. I was like,
like a raging bitch. What are we talking?
What a fucking lunatic! Like, holy fucking.
Very funny.
She's like, I'm sorry, but I was like, is nobody checking in on her mental health? Is nobody gonna offer her a fucking therapist? Why are they going to gurus? She needs a therapist. She has a lot of trauma from her papa, who
clearly it's trauma to the mom that's being passed on to Aparna. Like, if you watch it carefully, it's the mom.
Natasha, we know that mom's not going to go to therapy. So let's just start with the younger generation, shall we?
This is true.
Let's send Aparna to therapy. First of all, she don't need a man. She needs help. That's what she needs, okay? Yeah. And I had Srinivas Rao, who was her date. You know, yeah, Srini was my guest on my podcast.
Oh, amazing. Well, what did he say?
First of all, he's a great fucking guy to talk to. He's a lovely human being. So enlightened, very spiritual, very evolved. I had a great conversation with him. And he like really just didn't want to say anything negative about her, but I was just going in on her. But he just kept saying positive. And he's like, Mona, the big point about everything that you're saying is that Aparna needs help. Like there is a mental health aspect that is just completely ignored. And that was the one thing for me, Natasha, and I don't know, you can chime in and tell me how you felt about it. The one thing for me about the Indian matchmaking was that there was no heart in that show. It was all very topical. It was all very, what's your biodata? How do you fit financially? And how do you make me look? How do I make you look? I have looks. You have money. Let's get together. And there is no chemistry. There's no heart. One of my favorite guys on there, besides Srini, was Yasir.
Oh, yeah. Everybody loved him, yeah.
Lovely human being. You could just tell he had so much heart. And none of those couples ended up together. None of them. They all broke up. And it just goes back to my point about having no heart. What about you? What did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, there were a few things. Let's start with Aparna. Aparna, I think, is, from doing the dating podcast for so long, it's like something we talk about a lot on the show is like people, women, we've all, I have been in her shoes before as somebody who sometimes we take independence and misconstrue what that means, that we don't need anybody else. We don't want anybody else. It only is like our way or the highway kind of thing, without ever going like, hey, we're all kind of human. And not to say, I know, not to say you should settle, but you also don't need to be as hard as you're being, because sometimes like we get into this thing of like being so anti-feminine that we almost go the other route of like being kind of like angry dudes. And it's like neither is necessary. And so for me, it felt like a classic example of somebody who was a bit jaded, passed on from her mom's possible jadedness, and then she becomes very closed and closed-minded, and then gets into the what's everybody else but me, and all things like we've all done. I mean, I've done it. I've totally been there and done that before, to know that like it's not how you have to be. But I get like every time I watch these shows, like, look, at the end of the day, she's a character in a TV show. That's how they're casting. That's how they cast reality shows, as characters. So to me, it's like they cast a great character.
No, Natasha, but it's reality show.
I know. I shouldn't reveal those secrets as a producer, but it's true. But then the other thing is, you're right. I mean, there was no heart in the show. I think it was just showing a very stereotypical version of Indian culture or brown culture. I hate when people ask us if those things happen, because I'm always like, no, they don't. And now I'm like, great, there's an entire fucking show about it. So like,
how can you say it doesn't happen, Natasha? It absolutely happens.
Yeah, right now, like, there's no way to argue it. But do you really think it happened? Because I don't know anybody who's been fucking forced into an arranged marriage. Or
oh my god, I know plenty of people who've been forced into an arranged marriage. I mean, look, maybe it's different because you grew up in like Dubai and you grew up in Canada, but I was in Pakistan until I was 15, and I've seen quite a bit of that. I mean, there's no.
But like in India, I have so many friends in India because I go every year, and like I have, probably as many friends there as I do here, and nobody I know, none of my neighbors, nobody is doing that. But I think there's some aspects of what the show was trying to say that does happen, like the casteism, the classism, the skin color shit. I think that stuff is still taken into consideration in a stupid way, like it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I didn't know people.
Can I just say, how do you fuck a person when you have no chemistry with them? How are you like, get naked now? And you're just like, wait, what? What the fuck is happening? There is no chemistry. Like, do you want to see this person naked? Like,
I mean, listen, I've done it before. I have.
But you also have the option.
Yourself.
Yeah, but you also, yeah.
They're a really nice person. I should like it. And then you don't.
No. But you also have the option, right? But that's of your choosing.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I understand in Indian matchmaking, they're trying to do like, oh yeah, there's a boy and girl, but it's very like robotic and mechanical.
Oh, wait. You know who I hated on that? Okay, I very rarely use the word hate because I try not to hate people, but like, good Lord, those two dudes, the one with the fucking fingerprint entry into his closet. I was like, who the fuck are you? What are you, James Bond? Like,
oh my God, did I say gay? A little too loud. I'm sorry.
Totally. But
can you come out of the closet already? Jesus fucking Christ.
And then that last dude, the fucking mama's boy who had the like really pretty sweet girl, and she was like, yeah, I would love to go out with you. And I was just like, are you a robot? Like, did they just put like she's like a Toyota Prius who just needs like an electrical charge, and then she goes off and just does a little bit, and then she.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. They have to fucking. I didn't even think she had a heartbeat. They had a defibrillator just to like jumpstart her.
Literally.
Like, holy shit. Yeah, the last guy is like, and his cousin was very up in his business. He would like, she was calling him and be like, oh my God, you're getting married, yeah? And I was like,
was that a cousin? Because I was like, he should just be with her.
I know, because they had such chemistry. And I was like,
that's a cousin?
Like, because they're cousins, they're first cousins. I was like, maybe it's frowned upon in India or in Hindu culture to fuck your first cousin. In Muslim culture, we're banging our first cousins all day long.
Yeah, definitely. We're not doing that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are.
We fuck our first cousins. I'm gonna just put that out there right now.
Oh, have you ever fucked your first cousin?
Fuck no, I didn't have any attractive first cousin. I don't want them.
Yeah.
I'm not having fucking no babies for the extra fucking necks coming out of their heads and shit. Fuck out of here.
You know anybody who's had a baby from their first cousin?
I sure do.
And the babies are healthy?
Let me tell you something, Natasha. Let me tell you this story, since you're gonna okay, so there is this Pakistani couple that I met through another Pakistani friend. I got invited to this birthday party many moons ago. This is like 7, 8, 9 years ago almost. And I go to this party. It's in the middle of Hollywood. And I go to this party, and the wife is puking her guts out in the bathroom because she's been fucking loaded like crazy. She's drinking like crazy. She's just made her trip back from Pakistan. So to the family, they're very religious. We're very Muslim, and but bitches drinking like the fucking thing's going out of style, okay? So I go sit down and meet her husband. I'm like, hi, my name's Mona, what did you do? I'm a stand-up comic, we start talking. husband's a very successful architect. The wife is a housewife and whatever she does, whatever artsy shit she does, cutesy shit. Anyway, so we ended up all kind of becoming like kind of friends and stuff. And I had my birthday, so I invited them. And long story short, after many, many years of kind of friendships and stuff, I found out that his wife kept having miscarriages. She had like 5 miscarriages, 4 or 5 miscarriages, which is really alarming. Where you're like,
a lot.
You can just adopt at this point. Just go back to Pakistan and just adopt a child here. Like, why would you keep going through that?
Not healthy after a point, yeah.
Exactly. So finally, she gets pregnant, and she is bedridden, and she's pretty much bedridden throughout her entire pregnancy. Wow. And she puts on, I'm not kidding, I think she blows up to about 200, 250 pounds, right? She's massive. She's put on so much weight. And long story short, they end up having the baby. It's healthy. And they are, after having the baby, after like maybe a few months or so, she is at my place. We invited her to dinner at my place and stuff, and him and her, the wife. And we're talking, and it just kind of accidentally slips out of her mouth that it's Auntie so-and-so. And I was like, wait. Auntie? Isn't that his mom? I was like, so wait, y'all are related? And she goes, oh yeah, but we don't tell everybody that we're first cousins. And I had to change my last name to come here and to marry him because it's illegal in America to marry a first cousin.
Oh shit.
Motherfucker is a first cousin. I was like,
that's what, oh fuck.
May I say this guy is an American born and raised guy, very smart, actually good looking, established. And I'm like, that's the only bitch you could find? You couldn't find no other woman?
You'd be surprised how many people do the like real backward shit. My brother, and obviously not in the same realm at all, but like, I adore my sister-in-law. Like, I love her to death. But were we surprised that like my Canadian bred brother married a girl from India? I was very surprised. I was like, oh, okay. But like, he's like a very modern or whatever, but he only wanted somebody from there. Like, that was his thing. So I was like, oh, clearly I broke you. His big thing was like, I don't want anybody like my sister.
Really? Why do you think that is, Natasha? Are you older or younger?
Younger. But because I was very rebellious and like not like a typical Indian girl, and was very like independent and running around, and so he was like not somebody like her. Which is very funny because his wife is super independent. She's like very into fashion. She's like a boss, and it's just hilarious to me. I'm like, well, you kind of got somebody.
That's very interesting.
She cooks way better than me.
Does she work?
Yeah, she's a physical therapist. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's awesome. I mean, I love her.
How interesting.
I'm surprised because, like, as in, he was very adamant on marrying a girl from India. So,
different strokes for different folks.
But because I think it's because like some of these guys like are actually more conservative than we think that they are. Even though they're from here, they're sort of like, my brother is pretty conservative.
That's right.
I
think, what do you think that is about? Do you think that's about identity? I think it's about identity.
Yeah, it's gotta be. I mean, that and like our overbearing parents who probably have filled their heads with weird ideas. And
what? You were raised in the same household. Didn't happen to you.
But I'm a very rebellious person. Like, in general, I have like a strong sense of freedom of thought. But
and he doesn't?
Personality thing, no.
He's what, more like submissive?
My brother and I couldn't be more opposite. Like he like, I'm 5'2", he's 6'2". I'm in arts, he's an engineer. He literally he says things like, I don't understand like the people in your arts. Like, okay. He is like super sciencey and like whatever, and just not, he doesn't understand emotion for the life of him. And he's a suburban guy. He loves the like house in the middle of fucking buckfuck nowhere. And I'm like the city girl who like can't.
It sounds to me. Look, you have how many brothers? One?
Just one.
You have one older brother. I have 4 older brothers. I am the youngest and the only girl in the family. And before I dive into that, Yolanda wants to know, what's Natasha's astrology sign. I am gonna say,
Yolanda, I want you to guess what my astrology sign is. Let's just see. And then I want to know why you think that.
Well, you're a May baby, like I am.
Yes, that's narrowing it down.
Narrowing it down.
But I'm just curious what she thinks I am, and then.
Yolanda said opposites attract. LOL. Just kidding. All right. Well, I guess we'll wait for Yolanda's guess. She said Leo or a Gemini.
Gemini. Now tell me why you thought that. You know why? Because I'm curious to know. Let's just see if she says anything.
All right. Let's hear what Yolanda has to say. I feel, going back to my 4 older brothers, my brothers were very, very, they were very conservative. They were very proper when it came to their younger sister. No guys allowed. She's not allowed to date. She's not allowed to be around any guy. They would bring their guy friends around, and I wasn't really allowed to appear in front of their friends because I didn't even know I was fucking attractive till I was like in my early 20s, because I grew up with boys. I was a fucking tomboy for the longest time. Yolanda said she's driving. So she said, I'll tell you later. But I didn't even know those things. And turns out that all my brothers married non-Pakistani, non-Muslim women, right? They're all married, British and American and Austrian. They all married all kinds of shades of white. And now they have daughters. All of them have daughters because karma is because karma is great, and I'm a big fan. And now they're feminists. They were never feminists before, but now they're fucking feminists.
Yeah, I'm sure after they've like fucked your life over by feeding weird ideas in your head.
Sure. Yeah. So now they're feminists for their daughters, and God bless, and I'm glad they're doing that for their daughters. But they were a bunch of fucking assholes to me when I was growing up, right? Yep. Well, so it's just like, well, it's a fucking hypocrisy. So now they're still very feminist when it comes to their daughters because they're also half white, so they kind of take pride in that. But their sister, I don't really. I literally have one of my brothers who doesn't speak to me because I do comedy. I shit you not, Natasha.
I mean, my brother doesn't know what show I write on, so if that makes you feel better. My brother always goes like, What does she do on that show, Mr. Iglesias? What does she do? Wow. And I'm like, really? You don't know what I do? I was like, oh, okay. Cool, bro.
Yeah, but the truth is, Natasha, you don't really know what he does either. He does some engineering shit.
This is true. This is very true. Somebody told me years later that my brother worked for Honeywell making military parts. And I was like, he does? I was like, that's fucking cool. I was like, I would have told people that a long time ago if I knew,
but I bet he won't do the same for you, Natasha.
No, of course not. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, I get that. I empathize a lot because my brother, like, I was also grew up a tomboy. My brother literally beat the shit out of me and made me like never cry because guys don't cry kind of shit, Sure. And so I remember being like pummeled, like literally fucking hand over head being beaten, and I couldn't say anything. And then now years later, he goes to my mom, well, her problem is she thinks like a dude. And I'm like, and luckily, like, my mom is on my side, so my mom was like, bitch, who made her that way?
Right?
Like, you think she woke up trying to be like a dude?
Right. You toughen up.
You fill ideas in your head, and then they go about their lives.
Well, not just that. I mean, for me, it's just like, look, I was getting beaten up by 4 older brothers. So
I can't imagine.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just too much. But I think for me, look, I mean, your brother beat you till guys were a bunch of kids, right? You guys were just kids when this fight was going on, or were you guys teenagers?
Till I was 19.
Really? Wow.
That was our last physical fight. And
why were you guys getting into physical fights like that?
We all have tempers. I don't hit anything. I can't even fucking hit a mosquito. I can't kill. I see a mosquito on me and I'm like.
So you didn't like punch him back? Like you guys would get into arguments about what?
We would just get into I mean, I have a very sharp tongue. And so that's probably where I don't even remember. I mean, our fights were never a thing. It's not like we fought like I remember it at all. We just fought because we're fucking siblings who fought about everything. But ours just got violent. I mean, it's not, I don't mean violent like I had a fucking black eye, but I mean, he did like pick me up and throw me against the wall.
And where are your parents? Like, you guys are adults at this point.
Not fucking home.
What the fuck? And you're not like, I'm gonna fucking call the cops.
I mean, again, he wasn't beating me. It wasn't like a husband beating a wife kind of thing. You know, it was like a fucking brother going like, you fucking idiot. Or, I mean, look, the last one he lost his brains and I had to calm him down because I did think he was going to hurt me. Yeah. But not enough that I thought that, you know, I mean, I've just also learned to take a punch since I was a kid. So I'm kind of like, whatever, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think yours might have been a little bit more kind of brother-sister thing.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't like that. You know, I had some really massive, crazy domestic violence shit.
Oh shit!
Yeah, we had like some serious stuff. Like I would have
all the brothers were at you.
All of them. I would have to call the cops on my brothers. One Thanksgiving, one of my brothers pulled a knife on me and he tried to stab me with it. And I literally, we used to live in New York, and this is like wintertime. And it's a really cold night. And I literally just put my jackets on, no socks, just put my shoes on real quick, and then just left the house because my other brothers didn't come to defend me. And this brother was coming at me with a knife.
Wow. What was that about? Was it about a specific thing? Do you remember? Is that the brother you don't talk to?
I don't really talk to most of my brothers. But this is the only brother I actually talk to. We've actually kind of made peace a little bit.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember what it was about, but I quite frankly can't think of a single fucking thing why you would pull a knife on me.
Yeah, no. Or on that on anybody, doesn't matter. I'm curious, not that made any difference, but.
Yeah, I can't imagine a single thing, but I think, you know, I think there's just been also, we have a history of domestic violence in our family, so there's also that. But I think, to me, it's very shameful. I think the shame is not on me. I think for the longest time I thought the shame was on me, but as an adult I realized the shame is on them. The shame is on me.
Yeah.
It's not on me. It is not my problem. It's your problem.
Yeah.
You figure it out, right?
Well, and also like something like as guys, they are so deeply fucked up themselves by whatever they've gone through, and then they've taken it out on us, and then we have internalized it as like, because we're little kids and you don't know what the cause of anything is. You're not seeing the domino effect of what's causing the pain for them to cause the pain to you. So you're thinking it's your fault.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Muhammad Rizvi said, karma comes around, daughter might pull a knife someday. And I'm like, hey, I just want a front row seat for that one. That's all I want. That's all I want. Nothing else. I hope it's on social media. But that being said, I don't know, Natasha, do you feel like that kind of thing, like, I don't know, did you guys have like, was that kind of a thing that went down between your parents? Like, were your parents kind of had the physical violent thing too?
Yeah, I mean, we had a very dysfunctional home. It's almost
Natasha, come on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to a point that I've had therapists actually tell me, considering all the things that have happened in my home, they're very surprised with how well adjusted I am.
You are. You don't come across as a basket case at all. It's amazing.
But that was but you know how it is in Desi culture also, which is very like, you don't show people. So when I went to school, Here's one example. I've never seen my parents until I got much older. I didn't know they liked each other. Like, I don't remember a time at home that my parents didn't fight. And for them, their fights lasted months. Like, there was a time that they went 4 months without speaking. And so your whole house is like, and I'm the messenger going back and forth, and sort of conveying so my mom would be like, tell your father I want to go to the grocery store now. And then I'd go to dad and I'd be like, Daddy, do you think you have some time to maybe go to the grocery store? So maybe I can get some time. Tell your mother that I'll go when I want in a half hour. Ma, Daddy's a little busy right now. Can we maybe do it in a half hour and then we can all go together? Like, that was like my whole fucking childhood and then there was, of course, the physical stuff and there was just so many things that you would never be able to guess now, because now they like each other and they get along and you're like, who the fuck are you? Like, it was such a mind fuck for me. I don't know how your family still is, but like mine has eventually, thank God, sort of grown. Yeah. And when I left home because, like, a lot of people don't know this, but I left home from Canada to New York with 2 bags of clothes and nowhere to go. And like, I slept on my friend's couch in New York. I didn't have money. My parents didn't give me, I've never had money. Like, I came to a new country by myself with a visa I got on my own because my home life was so toxic. And my mom says it now very openly to me that, I had to sort of push you out so it was sort of save you, because what was happening here for you was very toxic. So it's like, I left, and the second I left, fuckers all just started getting along.
How interesting. How amazing.
They had no audience anymore. So they got along, and then I would come back to visit and always be sort of on guard, like old me, like that anxiety filled, like your parents are, what are they going to say next that's going to start the next world war? And then they'd always be like, oh, just relax. We're not like that anymore. And I'm like, you guys are fucking with like my entire like soul and being right now. Like, what is happening? So you just ruined my entire childhood?
Dude, I feel like it almost sounds like they were doing an acting performance this entire time.
Yeah, kind of feels like it.
And now all of a sudden they were just like, just kidding, was just acting.
Yeah, they're like, we're
fine.
And the Oscar goes to
Ooh, parents. Are you fucking kidding me? Did they go to therapy? I mean, how did they work their shit out?
I really believe, like, for mine, it was that they didn't have an audience anymore. I really say that. Like, it's because they didn't have anybody else to go to, so they had to figure it out. Growing up, my brother used to get involved a lot in their fights, and so that escalated it. Like, he would pick a side, and then I was always like sort of the confidant type, so they would always tell me all their problems and things I shouldn't have heard as a child that I didn't realize until I became older and I went to therapy. And then my therapists were like, you weren't supposed to hear that. And I was like, what? And they're like, parents don't fight they're not supposed to fight in front of the kids. I'm like, huh? And then I talked to some of my friends and they were like, oh yeah, I've never seen my parents. Like, if they knew that they were in a fight, their parents would exit the room. Not like you and I'm sure. Like, I'm sure you have, similar or more intense stories of that. So it's like, I just feel like they didn't have anybody else and they had to learn to deal with each other.
My dad was grabbing my mom by her hair and just dragging her out the room. I mean, those are the kind of stories that I, my therapist once asked me what's my earliest memory as a child. And I was like, oh, my dad dragging my mom out by her hair. That's my earliest memory. So I don't did your parents get in like physical altercations, or was it just always verbal?
No, physical also. I mean, it stopped being physical once my brother grew of age, where my brother became taller than my dad. And then it sort of started going a little bit more to him, sadly. and then, you know, I mean, there were times that that I had to get involved, and so I got roughed up a little, not because anybody hit me. Nobody really. My dad never touched me ever. That's one thing for sure. But in trying to protect or get in the way of like blocking, you know, things that happen. But it's so crazy because, like, again, if you ever saw them now, you would. I'm shocked. I'm like, who are you people? Because like my dad is like super saintly and like, you know, prays for 6 hours a day kind of guy. And I mean, he is somebody who I give him credit that praying changed him. Like my dad was an angry psycho. Like you had no idea what would set him off at any time, and something would get thrown or something would get hit or whatever. I mean, my stories with my parents, I'm sure like yours, are so bad I can't repeat on, you know, camera, but it's like that's
I repeat my stories plenty of times, Natasha.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think I'm there yet, not for me, but mostly for them. Like I'm, you know, cognizant of them, but it's crazy to me because I'm always very like, you're so different now. That it's crazy to see the growth, and I'm proud of him that way. Like,
yeah,
in that sense, my dad in the last like couple of years has even come to me and apologized and said like, I didn't realize. And he actually, you know, you would never hear brown dad say this, but he not only apologized but explained why. He was like, I was going through my shit when I was of that age. And when his 30s and 40s, and he's like, I was going through stuff as like an immigrant who lost his stature, his place when he moved to Canada and had to start again, and then marital issues on top of that. And he's like, I was going through my stuff and I took it out on you. And I was like, wow, that's like self-awareness. And he was like crying, and I was like, it's okay, Dad. Like, I forgive you. I forgave you a long time ago, but I appreciate it. Like, it means a lot, and I'm glad. Like, you know, because they start hitting 70, 71, and they start, you know, sort of realizing. So in that way, I'm lucky that we're not in that place now, but it was traumatic as a kid. And something that my brother and mom acknowledge a lot of, like, why I ended up a little bit more the way I am, which is very like, I never wanted to get married. I didn't want kids. I was very like, and they acknowledge it was probably because like I was probably a little bit more sensitive than I let on of all the stuff that was happening, you know?
Right. Of course. I mean, and you know, Natasha, you don't even have to be a sensitive child to be affected by that. I mean, level of verbal or physical violence, if you grow up with that, you don't have to. It will make the hardest of children become fucking sensitive, because that's you know, no child wants to witness domestic violence at home. They don't want to see their parents fighting. I mean, that's just like another thing. For me, when I had started 8th grade in Pakistan, I remember this. I remember asking my classmate, and I was like, how often does your dad beat your mom? And she was like, what? And I was like, how often does your dad beat your mom? Because I thought everybody's mom. I thought it was like the thing to do. Like, it was the gym. That's how you kept bitches in line. Like, that's what you did, you know? And my girlfriend was just like, that's not normal. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? She was just like, that's not right. Is that what your dad does? And I was just like, yeah, doesn't your dad do that? She's like, no. No. Your dad has never beaten you. No. Never beat your mom. Never.
Yeah.
Do they fight? Do they fight? Do they cuss each other out? No. Never. Oh. And then you're just like, oh, whoa. I'm the fucking weird one. She's not the weird one. I'm the weird one. Okay, this is what the hell is going down. I mean, look, I don't know if you go to therapy. I mean, I was talking about it yesterday.
Huge on therapy.
Huh?
I'm like a huge proponent of therapy.
Me too. I've been in therapy for 13 years now, almost 14. Big fan, huge promoter of it. The only person in my family who's ever been to therapy. Does your family know you go to therapy? And do you advocate?
Oh, yeah. Mine, no. In the beginning, they fought me a lot on it of like I shouldn't go. And then, but I don't know how your parents are. I look, even though my family has been crazy, we're a very, very close family. So I'm very close, especially to my mom and dad. And so I tell them everything. So especially my mom. My mom is like the best human ever. But she, when I would come home from therapy, would tell her the things I learned. So almost in a way that like, since you won't go to therapy, I want you to learn what the certain effects of what you guys did had on me. And so then she would like be like, oh shit. And then she would go back and tell my dad, and like slowly they started learning how they fucked up through me. And then, like, it was almost like my way of like therapizing them again of like, hey, remember that thing that you guys did that time? Well, I don't think I've ever told you this, but this is how that affected me. And then my therapist thinks I should do this. And then they'd be like, oh, okay. And so like now they love that I go, or not love, but they're very supportive of, they don't even question it. Like they know. But it changed me a lot. Therapy helped me to set boundaries with them, and especially my dad. My mom, I've like rarely ever had an issue, but especially my dad. And, over time, I finally find myself in better relationships and all of that of like actually like applying the stuff that I've learned there.
Do you feel that the kind of relationship you had with your dad and with your mom, it sounds like you've always had a good relationship. I've never had a good relationship with either one of my parents. But with my mom was also very physically abusive, and not to mention also very verbally abusive. And as adults, we've talked about it, and I've asked her, and I'm like, why were you such a cunt back then? Could you explain? And then she was like, well, I was going through my own shit. Your dad was beating the shit out of me. I thought I was the ugliest person around, and I couldn't understand. I was a beautiful woman, and I was good to him, and I was looked good, and I took care of the kids, and I couldn't understand why he was so physically and verbally abusive towards me. I couldn't understand. So I would just take it out on you, because when I came along, I was a replica of my mother. My mom used to be like, you're so ugly. I can't believe you're my child. You're so dark. So I grew up with like all that kind of fucked up indoctrination about myself. And I was like, oh shit, I'm like ugly. And like my mom even tells me I'm so ugly. So I have to learn to be like funny and smart, and have to like do this fucking tap dancing, people pleasing shit. And then as an adult, you're just like, fuck this shit. This is fucking exhausting. But that's the kind of mindset that I grew up with. But for you, like, do you feel this thing that you fixed with your dad, that male role model relationship, do you think have you seen the difference in the kind of men you date because of you fixing your relationship with your dad?
100%. And one big thing was I stopped trying to fix the relationship with him, and I stopped trying to fix him. And I just started saying like, this is who he is, and I have to work around that and set my own boundaries. Because half of the battle for me was learning I was codependent. I ended up with addicts. I ended up with abusers. I ended up with people who are overbearing and jealous, and everything that he was to my mom. And in some relationships, not all my relationships, a couple of them were pretty good, but especially when I got in a really abusive one, I was like, how did I end up in this? And then I realized like, oh, this didn't seem abnormal to me, because that chaos that I felt at home is the chaos that I felt here, and chaos felt normal. Like, isn't that how it always is? And so therapy helped me to like break that pattern and realize it wasn't normal. I think one of the biggest things, like what you said, realizing when you were in 8th grade and going to somebody and going, how many times does your dad beat your mom? They don't. And you go, wait, what? That's not reality? And like, that was me, but like much later, I was like in my 20s when I heard that wasn't supposed to happen. And I was like, what? your parents didn't? I didn't, because I didn't even talk to my friends like that. Like I wouldn't tell even my best friends like the real shit that was happening, because it is so embarrassing and you're ashamed of it, and you don't want, for me especially, it was like I've always struggled with like, I don't think my parents are bad people. My dad had done bad things. He was a really good dad for the most part, but like a terrible husband, and I just like never wanted anybody to like judge him for it. So I just kept it to myself. And then later in therapy, when I could like finally talk it out, I was like, oh shit. And then there were so many repressed memories, like things I didn't remember happened. Not again to me. I've never been abused or any of that, but like the traumatic moments with them that I just blocked away to function. And then, but yeah, like, I mean, my relationships have changed dramatically in the last few years, especially even more than before, because I've still had a couple, weird ones a few years ago. But I would say in the last 5 years, it has been almost really positive. Like I don't have any hate for anybody I've dated. So a couple of them have done. Look, one of them cheated on me, but I still don't hate who he was as a person, because I think he was just fucked up. But there were a couple people before that were just bad. They were bad humans. They were not good people. And now I just find myself not even remotely attracted to that. Like I just like I'm so disgusted by it. Like that is a great feeling. I'm like, oh, I'm never going to be with somebody like my dad now, because that's not the kind of person I've broken that pattern, you know?
Yeah. So Yolanda said, but for Gemini, I would say because of your independence and speaking your mind, also your composure. And Yolanda also said that's very Gemini of you, LOL, not hating. I mean, hate, I mean, I think for me, I've been on your podcast kind of dating, and I think I talked about this narcissistic guy that I was dating in the beginning of the pandemic. I had to dump his ass real fast.
Good.
Yeah, I dumped him real fast. But I think for me, I tend to, just like you said, in the past, I was like rescuing these guys, and I kind of had a moment after I dated him where I made this announcement to the universe. And I was like, I no longer wish to save anyone. I do not send me these people. I'm not attracted to them. Tell them to fuck off. I don't want them. Tell them to fuck off. I must confess, the quality of people has dramatically increased.
Yeah.
Way better.
And that's like a huge thing, you know? We forget sometimes that we just also have to declare it. Like I noticed every time I've asked, like I'm not here telling anybody like I believe in God. I respect everybody who says they don't. Sure. It doesn't matter to me at all. But I'm just speaking from that point of view of somebody who prays and believes in God. And so for me, it's like I have prayed in my weakest moments with some of those really bad people. And then I just said, hey, God, show me the truth. And every time I literally said that line, show me the truth, within a week, I would find out they cheated, they did whatever, blah, blah, blah. Everything without me trying it would show itself. And then I started realizing, you fucking idiot, why are you waiting a year before you ask that question? So now I ask it as soon as I go out with somebody. Like if I were to go out with somebody, I would be like, show me the truth. And then right away, so that I'm like, and that shows me growth. Like now I don't want to wait to experience shit. I'm like, show me, let me, and I want to make a better decision for myself. And like, for me, the biggest change I noticed in my life was my mom said to me as a kid, once when she was yelling at me, she was like, your actions and your words don't line up. I was like, oh, and then I realized, oh, okay, great. Well, then now I'm going to show you. So I always like say the truth. I'm like, this is what it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. But I realized I wasn't doing that in relationships, which meant I was saying I wanted one thing, but I kept choosing the wrong person. So to me, I was like, well, you're clearly saying it and then doing something else. And in a way, this podcast makes me very accountable because I can't say something to people and in good conscience go out and make a stupid decision. So now, because of that, I have started to really like go on dates and use my critical thinking and be like, okay, I see what you're saying. You're still super hot, but I see this red flag. I know I want to fuck you, but you know what? I've had lots of dick before. So not to do this to myself this time. And then I have to like really like, that's my thought process. I go, okay, how many times have you had really hot dick? Okay. Was it that good afterwards? No, you just were like notch on your belt. Got it. Like, so what is this person going to be? Another notch on your belt. So fuck it. Like, don't do that to yourself. And then I noticed it like changing. And then slowly, like those people just stopped even being in my vicinity. Like when I'm on dating apps and I see somebody who even remotely gives me a red flag, I'm like,
yeah.
You know, I'm in an amazing relationship. I'm in a relationship with like literally one of the best humans I've ever met, you know, and yeah. And like, sometimes I'm shocked at how nicely he treats me. And I'm always like weirded out in my head. And I always remind myself, like, it's okay. Like, you can take niceness, like, let him be nice. Let him be nice to you.
Sure.
But I think it's like, whether that's the right person or not, time tells. But the caliber has gone up so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like your caliber also went up because you started going on dates and you weren't ignoring red flags? You were just like, I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm in the moment, and I'm watching and listening everything that's happening. Because I used to be that girl who would go on date. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having such a good time. And just totally ignore the gajillion red flags that are like in my face. And I'm like, but I'm having such a good time. Do you feel like that has also made a difference for you?
100%. I mean, that's a really good point. But it is like exactly what you're saying. It's like you're still present.
Yeah.
You're still having fun, but you're so aware now. Like, and it's what you said. Sometimes you just got to listen to people.
That's
and
right.
like, they tell you everything.
That's right. They'll tell you exactly who they are. Those people on the first date, you ask them the right questions, they will give you the right answers.
Yep. And one thing with me, like, you know, my friends even joke, maybe it's by way of, you know, interviewing people for a long time. I used to be a reporter for many years. I don't think I ask a lot of questions, but maybe I do, but people just tell me everything.
Yes, me too, Natasha.
And so I'm like, great, tell me more. What? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, noted. Red flag.
Exactly. You know, I got a little bit of a slack a few months ago. I made a post about this guy because, you know, this was about like May or something. I met this guy online and I was just like, hey, man, can we do like a Zoom date? The first date, I just want to like just kind of get you, instead of having a call, we'll just do a Zoom date. And he was like, okay. So he jumps on Zoom, seemed like a nice guy, seemed pretty well put together. We started having a conversation and I asked him and I'm like, you know, do your parents live nearby? How are your parents holding up? And he goes like, oh yeah, my dad lives nearby. I'm close to my dad. I'm like, oh, what about your mom? And he goes, oh yeah, you know, I'm not really close to my mom. Quite frankly, if she dies today, I really don't care. And to me, I was like, I think any other time I would have been like, oh, let me save you. Oh, you got mommy issues. Let me help you. And I think for the first time in my life, I was like, yo, fuck this shit. I'm out. I don't need to be a part of this because he's going to take that shit out on me. I'm going to be his fucking punching bag. So let me get out of Dodge while I can. And I was like, hey, very nice chatting with you. I was like, by the way, before I head out, have you ever considered going to therapy? And he goes, oh, no. Why do you say that? I'm like, because you seem to have a lot of unresolved issues with your mother. But who am I to judge? Hey, have a nice day. Goodbye. Goodbye. And I go on Facebook and I made this post. And there is a female comic whose name I will not mention, came out and was just like, what's that supposed to mean? Does that mean that, I have a lot of issues with my mother? Does that mean that my boyfriend should have went out with me? I was like, no, that's not what I'm writing. On your first date, if the first thing out of your mouth is that you hate your fucking mother, that is not a fucking good thing to put out. Maybe wait a little. Maybe fucking give it a few dates.
Well, also everybody's red flags are different, right? Like for me, if you said, like, I didn't want to go out with a guy on a second date who had said that he thinks about poly or open relationships. I was like, been down this path. I don't want this experience again of somebody trying to pressure me into a relationship I don't feel comfortable in. That's right. For me, that's a thing. To other people, not a big deal. Somebody who does hard drugs, I'm not for it. My friends don't mind if somebody that they're with does acid or something like that. I don't like it because I've had an experience that shows this isn't the kind of thing I want in my life. So it's not like you're saying, you're not saying every single person who has a mommy or daddy issue is a shitty person. You're just saying it's not right for you. And that's fair. And because like, you don't need somebody like you who has had experiences where people have taken their unresolved shit with somebody else out on you. Example, your mom with her husband out on you. You don't want that pattern repeated when somebody literally says, hey, I'll probably be doing that to you.
Exactly.
But your other female comic friend, her boyfriend probably doesn't have that trigger. That's so correct. God bless him. And he doesn't have that trigger. And so it's not like you're saying,
that's right,
you female comics suck. It's that in this situation, it's great. Like that person wasn't right for you. And that female comic wouldn't be right for you to date either. Because it's the same thing. Like, I'm the same way. Like, some people don't care about being with somebody that's close with their family. But because I'm so close to my family, I kind of like that, where I've been with people who weren't, and because they weren't, they tried to get me to be a little away, and I didn't like that. That said, that's just my preference. I know people who aren't close to, like, you're not close to your family, so to you, it wouldn't matter if somebody was or wasn't, I'm sure.
It is actually. For me, it's interesting because I wish I had that kind of closeness with my family. So I make sure that I'm with a person who is close to his family.
Yeah.
Because I never had that. Right? Because I two people who are not close to their families coming together probably would not be able to make a family together.
Yeah.
Because they come from
codependency. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just like, I don't want to be with somebody who also has a detached relationship with their family. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want to be with someone who's like a lot more stable than I am.
And that's what I try to tell people is like, you're not trying to date every single human on earth. Like, we're not supposed to be matching with every single person. You're not looking for everybody. That's why you always have a tiny pool of people that you actually have potential of being in a relationship with. So God bless that we all have different preferences and wants and needs.
Yeah.
Because there is somebody out there for everybody, I'm sure. Unless you're Ted Bundy, but Ted Bundy had a lot of chicks.
You had someone too, Ted. Ted Bundy had a chick. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just feel like relationships are hard. I think even the good relationships are hard. And I think if you talk to people who have great relationships, even they're just like, yeah, it's fucking hard. Like, you have to work at it. Like, you have to put in that effort. But I feel like people like myself, or even somebody like you, we kind of come from a bit of a disadvantage. Our kind of beginning has been a disadvantage because our role models were murky and fucked up. So we kind of had to go out, figure out our role models on our own, and then just come back. Now, in your case, thank God, both your parents are alive and they worked their shit out and they've, become better human beings and they've grown. in my case, that wasn't the case. My father passed away in 2005. It's going to be 15 years. Actually, it's going to be my dad's death anniversary on the 30th of this month. But it's interesting. But my mom, still has not grown as a person. As a matter of fact, she's even declined, gotten even worse than what she was, right? She had a bit of a growth spurt and then she went back. And I think the greatest lesson for me this year has been I can never save my mom. There's just no way. I could never save her. If I try to save her, she'll drown me with her. So I have to just accept her for who she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of where I definitely came to with my dad. It's like, look, there's some areas of my dad that are just not gonna change, and I can't spend my time and mental energy and focus anymore on trying to fix that relationship or having him see me differently. But somehow, strangely, as soon as I let go, he sees me differently now. Like growing up, my dad never complimented me, kind of like you in a way that people see this now, or they see my Instagram and they think, oh, this girl must just be like, she knows she's whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I always have to remind people that, like, I was a girl that had Coke bottle glasses, short hair, tomboy. Yeah. No boy looked at me till high school. That's the personality I have ingrained. And even then, my dad never said he never said the word beautiful or pretty or anything to me till like my, like 18, 19 was like maybe the first time I heard it. My dad never said he was proud of me till I don't even remember. I remember when my web series came out was the one time he said he was proud of me. Last year is when my dad made me cry for the first time. Like I was driving and he said to me, you are, and he started railing off all these compliments. You are this kind of person and this kind of person. And do you know that you deserve this and this and this? And I was like, fuck is talking to me on the phone? I was like, why didn't I hear this when I was like 15 or 16, Like, I mean, how do you feel like when, and you're so right, people like us have had to have a delay in our growth. Like, I do sometimes wonder, who would I have been? How much farther along could I have been if I had somebody that was like Kamala Harris's mom, right? Where Kamala Harris, she was talking about one thing that she heard since she was a kid from her mother was, people have always judged me. You will never let anybody judge you. You will be, you will prove yourself to be number one. Like, you can be anything. You and I have probably never heard that of you can be anything. What? Like, they were always like, no. Whatever that thing you think you want to be, X that. It's like the complete opposite. And then you and I had to talk ourselves into being our cheerleader and the coach and the player all at the same time. Yeah. And so there's a lot more work that goes into that. There's a different sense of satisfaction and confidence, I'm sure you feel from that. There's also a sense of pain from that, because you go, oh fuck, man, maybe I could have been Kamala Harris if I had some push or support. But like, my dad gets it now. Yeah. I never had this like, you're amazing and you can do whatever you want. I remember I failed first grade. So I have I mentioned 4 older brothers. My second and my third brother were given expired vaccination for polio, and they got polio because of it. And so my mom would bring them to America for the treatment, and that's how our family started coming to the US. Mm-hmm. So I would be living with my dad and my aunt and my grandmother, who helped raise us when we were kids. And I remember my mom coming back from America, and my dad gave her the report card and said she got an F. She failed first grade. Like, imagine you haven't seen your wife in months. She was taking care of your 2 sick kids, and then you come home and she's sitting with the 5 kids, and you hand her the report card, and my dad goes, yeah, your daughter failed first grade.
And I remember my mom looking at the report card and looking up at me with the look of death, like she wanted to slice my throat. And she looked at my oldest brother and she said, take this witch away from me before I kill her.
Oh shit. Yeah.
You know? And I think as a kid, I translated that as, oh, if I do good in school, if I become an overachiever, then I will be worthy of her love.
Yeah.
So fuck looks, fuck everything. Let's be extraordinary. Let's be extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I remember being so good in class that I skipped 3rd grade. Right? I was this overachieving fucking honor student, right? I was just like, fuck this. I fucking never want to go back to being a fucking loser, right? In my head. And I think as an adult, like now I have conversation with my mom sometimes. And I'm like, you know what, Ma, I know you wanted me to become a doctor. And I never really kind of had a desire to become a doctor. But what do you think of what I've become? Not that I really give a shit, but yeah, what do you think? What do you think of my career choice? And my mom said to me one day, and she was just like, you have become extraordinary. She goes, it's not something I ever imagined for you to be. She goes, you've become extraordinary. You do things that I never would even imagine my daughter would do,
Wow.
in a very positive way.
Yeah.
But, I take everything my mother says with a grain of salt, because today she'll tell me I'm extraordinary, but tomorrow she'll call me a loser. So yeah. I don't really trust her compliments per se, but I was just like, okay, I'll take it. But I think for me, the harshest lesson has been, and also the greatest lesson, is that rather than trying to seek the validation from the outside, it is now kind of turned inwards and being like, what do I think of it? Do I like it? Do I like what I do? Mm-hmm. Hey, how many people get to watch my stream? 1 person? 0 per person? Who cares? I had a great fucking conversation, and I give a shit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Like and that's where I'm saying, we've had to be our own player, cheerleader, and coach, right. all at the same time. And that's a lot of work, but it makes you self-sufficient in a great way also. And the truth is, nobody else can love us until we love us. And that's another part of how my life started sort of turning around, was when I just started changing that the thoughts of like, I don't need other people to tell me this anymore. Though, like every artist or comedian, I still love if somebody says you're funny. I'm like, thanks God.
Yeah.
It constantly in my head. But that said, everything else I've had to like really learn to write down those thoughts and like say it to myself over and over again. Like, you're smart, you're good, you deserve this, you're gifted, you're talented, you're da da da, and like really believe it, so that when I'm in a relationship and a guy treats me well, I'm not like, oh my God, it's like I appreciate it, but I'm also like, okay, yeah, like I'm a pretty good person. I think I deserve that. Like,
yeah, exactly. And by the way, not to confuse that with being cocky or entitled.
No,
that is
not at all.
The self-esteem way of kind of checking in with yourself and being like, how do I feel about this?
Self-worth, you have to have it. And self-worth is very different than what you're saying, than overconfidence or cockiness or conceitedness. Self-worth is just knowing like you're filling your own cup in a positive way, so that you're not being taken advantage of from the outside because you don't have enough.
That's right. Because you're not like, oh my God, love me and save me. And do you think I'm good enough for you? And it's just like, yo, fuck this. Like, after a while, you're like, this is exhausting.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fucking exhausting. Wow, Natasha, we got deep. We got real deep.
No, we did.
We got real deep. But I know, but it's great. And I love having these conversations, because I feel like I don't think, especially, I think you know this, and I know this, we're both this girls, that, there's a lot of shame about, look, you and I know that when we were growing up, we could never have these conversations publicly. But thank God we live in an era. Thank God we live in a country. Thank God we live in a city and are in a profession where we're able to verbalize our traumas and our pain and possibly not only use it as therapeutic for ourselves, but also as therapy for other people, and possibly for them to kind of look into it and be like, oh my God, this person went through the same thing I did, and they overcame it, and possibly I could go to therapy and I could get help, and I think it's super important, because I think there is still so much stigma in our culture, and I think even not even just South Asian culture, I think it's in American and in just culture around the world, about talking or verbalizing your trauma, especially as women, is kind of frowned upon. It's like, oh, you're damaged. Oh, pity. And they're just like, this is not for a pity party. This is for an actual conversation about growth of people and how people can change, which your parents have shown.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you're talking about this and that you're also very open. It's so refreshing, because exactly what you said, like so many, especially Desi women, like none of my friends go to therapy. None of my friends will talk about anything that they go through out loud, including some of my best friends, like it's a very difficult thing for a lot of people. And one of the best compliments or anything that anybody gives me on kind of dating is young brown girls who are like, oh my God, I just so appreciate that you talk about your failings and or sexual experiences like really openly, because I go like, I am not going to live my life anymore with any fucking dude thinking that they can take my worth from me, which is, I talk openly about sex. I'm like, I love sex. I have had a lot of really good sex. I have great sex now, but with my boyfriend and like that one person. But before that, I was like fucking wild and free. And I'm proud. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Do we do that to men? We don't ever sit there sadly and go, oh, are we slut shaming a guy? Even if somebody called me a slut, I'd be like, cool, call me whatever the fuck you want. Just don't call me fat. If you call me fat, I'll cut your throat. But
that's where you draw the line. You draw the line there.
I know, because to me, it's like, you're not defining me anymore, and you are not telling me what's acceptable and not acceptable anymore.
Yeah.
And I believe like the only reason we are talking about it, I'm not talking about it for any crude factor. I don't go online and talk about every guy I just fucked if I fucked them. Sure. I only do it if it's like part of a story where I'm trying to tell somebody something to learn from, that I wish somebody told me.
That's right.
But nobody talks about it.
That's right.
So if I had known. That's
right.
I probably wouldn't have gotten to half the shit I got into.
Listen, if we had parents or we had mothers or people who empowered us and were just like, hey, don't ever let a man mistreat you. Don't ever be with a guy because you have to fucking fix him. Don't ever be with somebody who mistreats you, this and that. We could have avoided at least 80% of the fucking heartaches we've been through. At least. At the bare minimum. Right? One thing, Natasha, I wanted to actually ask you, and we're going to start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Do you observe, and have you seen this? Because I've observed this thing where I've seen girls in the South Asian culture and otherwise who come from really good, stable families. Their parents are well off. They give them everything, and they're emotionally stable and come from a loving home. And they grow up to be these really shallow, lack of empathy people. And it's fascinating. And I'm like, but you grew up with everything. You were given everything. Why do you lack so much empathy? Why are you so egocentric and self-involved and selfish? But you were given everything. Shouldn't that have filled your cup for you to not be such a selfish little shit?
No, it's a good question. I think I think the thing is that, there's a simple Tao Te Ching quote. It's like my favorite one, but it basically says that like short and long define each other, ugly and beautiful define each other, darkness and light need each other. But when you've only had one experience, you have nothing to compare it to. So for those people that have had everything, quote unquote, haven't had everything, they've just had their level of experience and they don't have anything else to compare it to that's real life. So they just think in their bubble that this is what life is, this is what's acceptable, blah, blah, blah. People like you and I have probably seen both sides of the coin, right? Like, you have been successful on your own, so you've seen, I'm sure, money. You've also probably grown up with some struggles of an immigrant family and not had money. And so you have the two things to compare it to. I don't ever envy those people, because to me, I'm like, you don't have any actual life experience, which is like, God bless if that's your life. But I would also argue that everybody's a liar. I would also argue that those people have their own shit that they aren't talking about, and it's why they've turned out to be a fucking heartless soul.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I think some people I have gotten to know their families and been like, oh yeah, these guys are like awesome and shit, but why are you such a shallow piece of shit? And you're like, oh, you just fucking lack empathy because everything was always given to you and everything always caters to you and everybody around you always caters to you. You never feel the need to be empathetic towards somebody else because you're always you're always good. So you're just like, if I'm always good, then who cares?
Because empathy is the idea of being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Right. And so it's like they can't put themselves in anybody else's shoes because the only world that they've seen is one where everything is fucking white picket fences and,
right, the good life.
Butterflies, I don't know. And so it's like they don't have the ability. They actually just don't have the ability because they've never felt shitty enough to be able to recognize somebody else feeling shitty.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. I mean, there was there was this one comic. She is of Middle Eastern descent. Comes from a millionaire family. They're millionaires, and she's a comedian also. Or at least she claims herself to be. This person, I see their Instagram posts and I see how daddy always buys them everything and mommy always gives them everything. And you can just see like they grew up in a nice fucking healthy environment and how much mommy and daddy loves them. And literally one of the most shallow people, the shallowest of people I've ever met in my life. And I'm like, wow, this is the garbage can your parents raised. You're the trash can your parents raised with all that money and all that comfort. You fucked up. You are a failure to me as a person.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because like, even in my own home, I've grown up with, though my brother and I had the exact same parents in life until for half of our life, he's a very different person than me because he got everything and I didn't, which is so strange because in an Indian house, you're also like, wouldn't everything go to the daughter, the younger daughter? But nope, like everything went to him. And so he kind of has always grown up feeling much more able to even ask for things. When he wanted something, he would be like, I want a TV in my room. And they'd get him a TV in his room. And if I was like, hey, could I like get a sandwich outside? I'm really hungry. They'd be like, we'll just make food when we get home. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And, so it's like, but now if you see as adults, he doesn't have as much empathy as somebody like me does because I've been fucking poor. So poor. I had $1.25 in my bank account. My brother's never been poor. I had my first job when I was 15. He got his first job at 21. So like, that said, I constantly have to go in my head and be like, okay, but this is his karma. This is his destiny. Like, I can't hate on him for maybe being differently blessed than I was, you know, like maybe this has been my blessing that'll help me in my craft because I have way more stories to tell. And maybe in his life, that's his blessing. And, you know, every time, sometimes I get like resentful and then I'm like, well, no, God bless him because that's his fucking karma. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
Because I don't know how else to define. I don't know how else to define it. Like,
I honestly feel, and I don't know if you feel this way. I feel that we go through these experiences and we have these kind of live experiences because God has a plan for us, and that is really like the core of my faith, right? And I'm just like, none of this would be in vain. There's no fucking way. There's just no way that any of this is in vain. This is for a purpose, and I must walk that purpose, and I must believe in that purpose, and I must walk that path, and that's that. There's no real why that has happened to me and not to my cousin, my first cousin. You know, grew up with really nice parents, really cool, and then I hear that there I am, and she's another shallow cunt, and you're just like, oh my god, like what the fuck? Like, how are you given everything and you still choose to be such a garbage person? And then, you know, and I'm just like, but that is the person they chose to be. That is the path they choose to walk, right? Whatever their purpose is, which is just sucking a bunch of random dicks. But my purpose, on the other hand, besides also sucking random dicks, is also to do fucking good things and to have these conversations.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, you know, we're all walking on different paths. It seems like everybody's going through a bed of roses, that their life is a bed of roses, and I would guarantee you, no single human is exactly what they seem. And you know, so even those people, like my own brother, I know he has his own struggles that are different from mine. And so there's almost like no point in sort of comparing the life. But that said, I very much believe what you're saying, that everything in life has a purpose. At least in my life, it has shown that. At the very least, they made awesome stories on stage or in a script or something. Sometimes a few years ago, I told God, I'm good. I have enough stories for a lifetime. Like, I'm good. No more stories. So I like a boring life. But everything has its place and purpose, and you 100% have yours too, and you're living it. You know, you're living some of it now, and you're keep living it, and it'll all keep making sense as we go along.
100%. Now, Natasha, I know we didn't get too much into your work and about you as a writer, but we're gonna bring you back on again, and we'll talk more about that. But we're going to start wrapping up.
For Iglesias on Netflix on December 8th.
Yay! Now, Natasha, how many writers are in the room with you?
There are 11 writers that include our assistant and script coordinator. So 9 official writers and 2 of our support staff.
How many seasons have you been on the show?
Just season 2. And episode 10, which will be in this next half in December 8th, is my episode.
That's amazing. Now, do you also do stand-up, Natasha, or do you mostly just do writing?
So I started stand-up last year. And then I had to pause once I got onto Iglesias, and then I wanted to get back in, and the fucking pandemic happened. But I've been in comedy, like I said, since I was a kid. I've been doing improv. I've studied at UCB. I've always written comedy. Stand-up, the funny thing, is the thing I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. Like, the reason I got into comedy was because of watching stand-up in Toronto.
Oh, interesting.
Just that I was a very sheltered kid. Like, I wasn't allowed out. Literally, I wasn't allowed out. So I didn't know any path of going out and going to stand-up clubs and doing shows. Like, I didn't know that until I moved to America by myself and discovered. But at that point, I also was working late nights at MTV. So I used to work at MTV News as a producer, and my shift was from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day.
Right.
So I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do. And then, so it sort of, life just kept happening to me. And then, and to be honest, then there was also some fear around it of like, can I do this? Like, am I funny? The whole thing that happens. And so I started stand-up officially last year, and that's like now the thing. I've stopped improv and everything, so I could just kind of do that. And
good for you, Natasha. Good for you. Listen,
you I admire so much. I look up to people like you, like for brown girls like us, and you know, you're super fucking funny, and I hope I can, you know, work my way up to that level. And
of course you can. You've already worked your way up to getting yourself an awesome writing gig on Netflix. There's no doubt in my mind you can work your way up to doing comedy. There's no doubt in my mind.
I'm gonna pick your brain, because I'm always like,
dude, anytime we can go get social
fear shit. I'm always like, oh my God, I suck.
No.
People are laughing, then I'm like, I don't know, maybe they're laughing at me.
Let me tell you something about sucking as a comic on stage. Let me tell you something. Even the greats like your Chris Rock and your Chappelle and your Bill Burr and your Wanda Sykes and your Amy Schumers, when you have put a special out, you got to go back to the drawing board, and you're gonna eat a dick on stage, whether you like it or not. It's just, you're never exempt from a bad night. You're just never exempt from a bad night. I don't give a shit how well you do. The only time you're only exempt from a bad night is when you stop doing comedy. That's it.
Yeah.
If you are in the game and you like being tortured and you like torturing yourself, going up on stage, then you will have an off night. You are just never going to be exempt from it. And that's just the reality of stand-up, right? You're just always in the base. So this thing about, it's a certain mindset, you know, you're like kind of wired. It's almost like a, you know, it has like a masochistic thing where you're just like, this hurts me so much, but I can't live without it.
Yeah.
It's like being almost in like an abusive relationship with your art.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's partially where how I feel about it now. And like, I'm just being a little careful right now because of the pandemic. And I know some people are much more out there than I am right now. I was like, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer for a vaccine.
You can do Zoom shows. You can do Zoom shows.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of starting now, is doing that. Because
have you been writing a lot of new material during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been writing stuff. I mean, I have fucking documents for stand-up material, but it's the idea of like obviously testing it and seeing what works and what doesn't work.
That's just the workshopping process. I mean, you just kind of, everybody has to do it. I mean, from Chris Rock to the open micer that's, you know, started last week. I mean, that's just the process. I mean, you know, I think as you do it for a long time, your instincts get better. Your bounce rate gets better, right? You're not down for so long. Before, I would suck and then I'd be down for like 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month.
Yeah.
I'm fucking down. But now it's just like, all right, that didn't fucking work. Next, how do we make this work?
And I think that's where I need to get to for sure. And like also just sort of accepting your style. Like one thing, the feedback I've been getting is like, I'm a bit more, obviously maybe it's because of the writing background, like I'm a bit more of a storyteller than I am like set up joke. And so I tell a story and then I'll throw, you know, jokes in there and da da da. And so just sort of accepting that that's my voice, and I might not be this specific type, and just
storytelling. Yeah, but there's a term for it. That's called storytelling comic. You're a storytelling comic. That's so. Yeah, I'm a storytelling comic. I'm a storytelling comic / observational / political. I think that's kind of my kind of genre of where I fit. You know, but I hit the 10-year mark this year. 10 or 11 years. Yeah.
Boss.
Yeah. So I think that's, and that's the point where you're just like, okay, that is like really kind of the defining moment, what your voice really is about. That's really gonna kind of determine what kind of shit I'm gonna talk about for the rest of my life as a comic. If not really a comic for the rest of my life, you know? So, but Natasha, this has been a really enchanting conversation.
Yay. Thank you. Thanks for having me. You're so awesome.
You're awesome. Thank you for being so kind and generous and open with your life and talking to us. This has been really exhilarating. I wanted to ask you, where can our followers follow you and listen to you and go to Kind Up Dating Podcast?
Thank you. Yeah, we're at Kinda Dating across the board, and Kinda Dating's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I am at Natasha Chandel on Instagram, and if you want a whole lot of completely different personality political rants, you should follow me on Twitter at Natasha_Chandel. And then if you want stupid, silly dances, you should follow me on TikTok, Natasha.
I love your dances. They always put a smile on my face.
It's so funny because people don't know that I used to be a professional dancer for 10 years. And I used to teach.
I don't know that.
People are always like, you dance? And I'm like, oh my God, you guys don't even know.
You don't even know.
But it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun little outlet.
No, I think you're great, Natasha. And yes, if you want to ask questions about stand-up, please ask away.
Yes,
I'm here for you. So the door is open.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care.
Bye, honey.
I'll talk to you. Thank you. Take care. That was the lovely and talented Natasha Chandel. I know you guys had enjoyed that conversation. I know James did because he said, yet another great chat. Thank you, James. You're awesome. You guys, always a pleasure to see you guys. I will be back tomorrow with another amazing guest. You're going to love her. I was watching the news channel Cheddar, which is more like a youthful news channel. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's called Cheddar, like the cheese. And I came across this news anchor, and she was amazing. And I thought she would make a great guest. So I invited her. And she accepted my invite. So I'm going to have her on tomorrow. You guys, if you haven't followed me on YouTube yet, please do at Mona Shea Comedian. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mona's Comedy. Always love to see you guys. Have a good night. Stay safe out there.